Alex Mercer loved the night sky more than anything else in the world. Ever since she was a little girl, she spent her nights looking up at the stars. Now, at 32 years old, she worked at the Palo Alto Observatory, where she could study the stars every night as her job. For the past 3 years, Alex had been tracking a strange radio signal from space. None of her coworkers believed it was important. They said it was just random noise or maybe a problem with the equipment. But Alex knew better. The signal had patterns. It was too regular to be random. "You're wasting your time," her boss had told her just yesterday. "Focus on the meteor shower study instead." But Alex couldn't let it go. Tonight she stayed late after everyone else had gone home. The observatory was quiet and dark except for the soft glow of her computer screens. She adjusted her glasses and sipped her cold coffee while studying the latest signal readings. Something was different tonight. The pattern had changed. The signal was stronger, more focused. Alex's heart beat faster as she adjusted the satellite dish to better track the signal. She typed quickly, running the new data through her analysis program. Suddenly the lights in the room flickered. Her computer screen flashed and went black. Then the lights came back on, but dimmer than before. A soft humming sound filled the room. "Power surge," Alex muttered, hitting the side of her monitor. But when she looked up from her desk, she froze. The air in front of her was shimmering, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The shimmer grew stronger, forming a tall, human-like shape. Alex's mouth fell open as the shape became more solid. Standing before her was clearly not a human. The being was tall and slender with skin that seemed to glow and shift colors like the northern lights. It had long, delicate limbs and a face that was almost human but not quite. Its eyes were large and silver with pupils like a cat's, vertical, slits in pools of shining mercury. Alex couldn't move. She couldn't speak. Her coffee mug slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor, but she didn't even notice. The being looked directly at her and smiled. Its mouth moved, and a voice, like music, filled the room. "Hello, Alex Mercer." The voice was female, soft and pleasant but with a strange echo as if speaking from inside a crystal cave. Alex found her voice, though it came out as a whisper. "How do you know my name?" The alien's smile widened. "My name is Lyra. I've been watching you for years," she said, and Alex was left in shock. Before Alex could respond, a loud alarm began blaring throughout the building. Red emergency lights flashed in the hallway outside her office. The security system had detected an unauthorized presence. Lyra's expression changed to one of concern. She moved toward Alex with surprising speed and grace. "They found me sooner than I expected," she said urgently. "We need to leave now." Alex backed away. "Who's found you? What's happening?" "The ones who destroyed my world," Lyra replied, her silver eyes darkening with emotion. "And now they've found yours. Please, Alex, we don't have much time." Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Security guards were coming, but Alex sensed they weren't what Lyra was afraid of. "Why should I trust you?" Alex asked, even as she found herself gathering her laptop and research notes. "Because you've been looking for me your whole life," Lyra said, extending her hand. Her fingers were long and slender, with an extra joint that made them seem both elegant and alien. "And because without your help, your planet will suffer the same fate as mine." A tremendous crash shook the building, followed by screams from somewhere outside. This was no ordinary security breach. Alex made her decision. She reached out and took Lyra's hand. The alien skin felt warm and sent a pleasant tingling sensation up Alex's arm, like a mild electric current. "How do we get out of here?" Alex asked. Lyra smiled again and raised her other hand. A small device appeared in her palm, seemingly from nowhere. It looked like a smooth silver stone with glowing blue lines etched into its surface. She pressed it, and the air around them began to shimmer. "Hold tight," Lyra said. "The first jump is always disorienting." The world around them blurred. Alex felt like she was falling and floating at the same time. Her stomach lurched and she closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were no longer in the observatory. They stood in an open field under the night sky. Above them hung a massive shape, darker than the night around it. As Alex's eyes adjusted, she could make out the curved hull of what could only be a spaceship. "Welcome to my temporary home," Lyra said, guiding Alex toward a ramp of light that had appeared below the ship. As they walked up the ramp, Alex looked back at the distant lights of the city. In the far distance, she could see flashes of light, and what looked like fires starting near the observatory. Something terrible was happening there. "What's going on?" Alex asked, her voice shaking. "Who's attacking the observatory?" "The Void," Lyra replied as they entered the ship. "An enemy that consumes worlds and erases civilizations from history itself. They've been hunting me across the galaxy, and now they know I've contacted you." The inside of the ship was nothing like Alex had imagined alien spaceships would be. Instead of cold metal and blinking controls, the walls seemed to be alive, pulsing with gentle light in colors that shifted and changed. There were no visible controls, no buttons or levers or screens. "Why me?" Alex asked as the entrance sealed behind them. "Out of everyone on Earth, why did you contact me?" Lyra turned to face her, silver eyes glowing in the soft light of the ship. "Because you heard me when no one else could. The signal you've been studying, it was me calling out, hoping someone would listen." She touched Alex's temple gently. "Your mind is special, Alex Mercer. You can perceive frequencies others can't. You can help me save both our worlds." The ship hummed to life around them, responding to Lyra's presence. Through a clear panel in the wall, Alex watched as they rose above the Earth, leaving behind the only home she had ever known. And somewhere in the darkness of space, something was waiting for them. Something that had already destroyed Lyra's world and now had Earth in its sights. Alex Mercer, astronomer and stargazer, was about to learn just how vast and dangerous the universe truly was. The spaceship moved through the stars faster than Alex thought possible. She sat in what seemed to be a living chair, one that shaped itself to fit her body perfectly. Lyra stood in the center of the main room, her hands moving through beams of light that changed and shifted around her. "How are you controlling the ship?" Alex asked. "With my thoughts," Lyra replied. "My people, the Luminari, build our technology to respond to our minds. The ship is partly alive, in a way you might understand as both machine and organism." Alex looked around the room in wonder. "And you've been watching Earth? Watching me?" Lyra nodded. "The Luminari have observed your planet for centuries. We study developing worlds, learning from them, occasionally helping when we can do so without interfering too much." "Like gods," Alex said. "No," Lyra shook her head. "Just travelers with more experience. Your people have so much potential, so much creativity. You see the universe differently than we do." Lyra waved her hand, and a large screen appeared on the wall. Alex gasped as she saw images from her own life playing like a movie. There she was at 8 years old, unwrapping her first telescope on Christmas morning. Then at her mother's funeral, standing alone under a black umbrella in the rain. Later, in college, the moment she discovered something new about gravitational waves that earned her recognition in the scientific community. "You've been watching me my whole life," Alex whispered, feeling both violated and strangely moved. "Not just watching. Learning from you. Protecting you when I could," Lyra said softly. "You have a special gift, Alex. You can see patterns in the cosmos that others miss. Your mind works differently. When you began detecting our signals that should have been impossible for your technology to notice, I knew you were special. But why? Why me?" Alex asked, still trying to process everything. Lyra's expression grew sad. "Because my civilization is dying. The Void has been hunting us for centuries, destroying our worlds one by one. We are not just killed, we are erased. All memory of us, all record of our existence gone as if we never were." She moved her hands again, and the screen showed a beautiful world with spiraling crystal cities and oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life. Then darkness swept across it, leaving nothing but emptiness. "My home world," Lyra said, her voice breaking slightly. "Now it exists only in my memory. The Void doesn't just destroy, it unmakes. It feeds on the energy released when a civilization is not just killed but forgotten. Alex felt a chill run through her. And now they're coming for Earth? Lyra nodded. They follow me. I am one of the last sentinels of my people. We scattered across the galaxy, each carrying the memories of our civilization, looking for allies who might help us fight back. The ship shuddered suddenly. Alarms sounded, though not the harsh blaring Alex was used to from Earth. These were more like musical tones, urgent, but somehow beautiful. They've found us faster than I expected, Lyra said, her movements becoming more rapid as she interfaced with the ship. A new image appeared on the screen, a massive dark shape entering Earth's solar system. It looked like a black hole had been shaped into a vessel, absorbing light around it. Smaller craft began to deploy from its sides. Is that the Void? Alex asked, her heart racing. One of their warships, Lyra confirmed. Smaller than their world killers, but still deadly. They've tracked my ship's energy signature. Can we outrun them? Alex moved to stand beside Lyra, watching as the smaller enemy craft spread out in a search pattern. No, Lyra said grimly. But we can fight. The ship responded instantly, changing course. Alex felt a gentle pressure as they accelerated, but nothing like the crushing force she would have expected at such speeds. My ship may be small, but it's designed for combat, Lyra explained as she prepared their defenses. The Luminari were peaceful, but the Sentinels were trained to protect. This vessel has weapons and shields beyond anything your world has developed. What can I do to help? Alex asked. Lyra turned to her with a surprised expression, then smiled. Most beings would be terrified right now. Oh, I'm terrified, Alex admitted. But I'm also an astronomer who just discovered aliens are real. My curiosity is stronger than my fear. Lyra laughed, a sound like wind chimes. You are exactly why I love your species. She gestured to a section of the control interface. Come, here, place your hands in the light. Alex did as instructed. The beam of light felt solid under her fingers, warm and buzzing with energy. The ship can read your thoughts too, though not as completely as it reads mine, Lyra explained. Focus on the enemy vessels. Help me track them. Alex closed her eyes and concentrated. In her mind, she could suddenly sense the positions of the Void ships, as if they were points on a three-dimensional grid. She could feel their movements, predict their courses. They're surrounding us, she said, eyes still closed. But there's a gap in their formation, near the fourth planet. Mars. Good, Lyra said, sounding impressed. You're a natural at this. The ship banked sharply, heading for the gap Alex had identified, but the Void vessels responded quickly, adjusting their positions to cut off the escape route. They're learning our patterns, Lyra muttered. We need to be unpredictable. Without warning, she drove the ship directly toward the largest enemy vessel. Alex's eyes flew open in alarm. What are you doing? She cried. Something they won't expect, Lyra replied, her silver eyes focused intensely on the approaching enemy. At the last moment, Lyra sent their ship into a spinning dive that took them under the Void vessel. Energy weapons fired from points along their hull, striking the larger ship's underside. The Void ship's dark surface rippled where the weapons hit, but it didn't seem seriously damaged. Their armor absorbs energy, Lyra explained as they sped away. But nothing is perfect. Hit the same spot enough times. She brought their ship around for another pass. This time, the Void was ready. Dark energy beams lanced out, one of them grazing their hull. The ship shuddered, and a section of the wall near Alex seemed to bleed light. The ship is hurt? Alex asked in surprise. Damaged, Lyra corrected, but it can repair itself given time. They continued their attack run, firing at the same spot on the Void vessel's hull. This time their weapons broke through. There was no explosion, no fire, just a hole that seemed to lead into absolute darkness. Smaller Void ships swarmed toward them, firing continuously. Lyra's hands moved in complex patterns as she evaded their attacks, but they couldn't dodge everything. A direct hit rocked the ship, throwing Alex against a wall. She felt a sharp pain in her arm and saw that she was bleeding. But even more alarming was the sight of Lyra being thrown from her position at the controls. The alien woman hit the far wall hard, and a blue, glowing substance began seeping from a wound on her arm. "Lyra!" Alex rushed to her side, forgetting her own injury. "I'm all right," Lyra said, though her voice was strained. She touched her wound, and the blue blood seemed to slow its flow. "But we can't win this fight, not directly." She struggled to her feet with Alex's help and returned to the controls. "We need to change the battlefield. Follow me." Together they guided the ship toward Earth, with the void vessels in close pursuit. As they entered the atmosphere, the ship's exterior glowed with heat, creating a brilliant light show that would be visible to millions below. "We can't lead them to populated areas," Alex warned. "There are innocent people down there." Lyra nodded. "I know a place. A hidden valley where my kind first made contact with your species thousands of years ago. There's something there that might help us." The ship streaked across the night sky, now moving lower over Earth's surface. Below them, Alex could see mountains and deserts passing by. They were somewhere in the American Southwest, far from major cities. "What's in this valley?" Alex asked as they began their descent. "A legacy," Lyra replied. "Something my ancestors left behind to protect your world, should the void ever find it." She glanced at Alex with a meaningful look. "And something I think you, specifically, might be able to help me activate." The ship slowed as they approached a narrow canyon hidden between towering red rock formations. As they descended, Alex could see strange geometric patterns carved into the desert floor. Patterns that looked remarkably similar to the mathematical sequences she had been studying in the mysterious signals. "That's not a coincidence, is it?" she asked quietly. Lyra shook her head. "No, Alex. Nothing about your life has been a coincidence. You were chosen before you were born." The ship touched down gently in the center of the canyon, just as the first light of dawn began to illuminate the eastern sky. And high above, the dark shapes of void ships entered Earth's atmosphere, hunting for them. The desert air was cool as Alex and Lyra exited the ship. The canyon walls rose high around them, covered in ancient carvings that glowed faintly in the early morning light. Above them, the sky was still dark enough to see the void ships circling, searching for their exact location. "They can't detect us precisely while we're in this canyon," Lyra explained. "Something about the mineral composition of these rocks interferes with their sensors. But they know we're in this general area. We don't have much time." Alex studied the carvings on the canyon walls. They weren't just random patterns, they were equations, astronomical charts, and diagrams of DNA structures. Some looked incredibly ancient, while others seemed to have been added more recently. "Your people have been coming here for thousands of years," Alex realized. Lyra nodded. "This was our first contact site with humans. My ancestors found early humans fascinating. Your capacity for abstract thought, your curiosity, your resilience. We shared knowledge with some of your ancestors, taught them about the stars and basic science." "Is that where the ancient astronaut theories come from?" Alex asked. "Partly," Lyra smiled. "Though your people have greatly exaggerated our involvement. We were guides, not gods. We never built your pyramids or created your civilizations. We simply nudged occasionally." A loud boom echoed through the canyon. Dust and small rocks fell from the walls. The void ships were getting closer. "What are we looking for here?" Alex asked urgently. Lyra pointed to the center of the canyon where a tall stone structure stood. It looked like a simple monolith at first glance, but as they approached, Alex could see that it was covered in the same symbols she had been studying, in the mysterious signals. "This is a key," Lyra explained, placing her hand on the monolith's surface. "The Luminari left defense systems on worlds we thought the void might target, systems that could be activated in an emergency." The stone felt warm under Lyra's touch, and the symbols began to glow faintly. "Why didn't you activate this sooner?" Alex asked. "Because it requires both a luminary and a human to activate," Lyra said, looking at Alex meaningfully. "Not just any human, but one with specific genetic markers." "Genetic markers?" Alex repeated, confused. When we shared knowledge with your ancestors, we also shared a small part of ourselves, Lyra explained. Compatible genetic material that would be passed down through generations, markers that would allow certain humans to interface with our technology. Another explosion rocked the canyon closer this time. The void was getting better at pinpointing their location. And you think I have these markers? Alex asked. I know you do, Lyra replied. Why do you think you could detect our signals when no one else could? Why you've always felt drawn to the stars? Your DNA has been calling to ours for generations, Alex. Alex stared at the monolith, her scientific mind racing. It sounded impossible, and yet, hadn't she always felt different? Hadn't she always sensed things others couldn't? What do I need to do? She asked. Place your hand beside mine, Lyra instructed. Open your mind. Let the connection form. Alex took a deep breath and placed her palm against the stone next to Lyra's hand. Immediately, she felt a warm, tingling sensation spreading up her arm. The symbols under their hands glowed brighter. Good, Lyra encouraged. Now close your eyes and think about the stars, about protecting Earth. Alex closed her eyes. In her mind, she saw the night sky, the constellations she had studied all her life. She thought about her home, about all the people, going about their daily lives unaware of the threat hanging over them. The ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. A low humming sound filled the air, rising in pitch until it was almost painful. Alex wanted to pull her hand away, but Lyra's other hand covered hers, holding it in place. Don't break the connection, Lyra warned. It's working. Around them, the desert floor began to shift. Sand and rocks moved aside as massive shapes emerged from beneath the earth. They rose slowly at first, then faster. Huge metallic structures unlike anything Alex had ever seen. They were shaped like flowers or stars, with multiple extending arms that reached toward the sky. What are they? Alex gasped, opening her eyes. Defense platforms, Lyra said, her silver eyes reflecting the rising structures. Weapons designed to target the void ship specifically. As the platforms fully emerged, they began to activate. Energy pulsed along their surfaces, gathering at the tips of their extended arms. Then, without warning, beams of intensely bright light shot upward into the sky. Above them, one of the void ships was hit directly. Unlike Lyra's weapons, which had barely damaged the enemy vessel, these beams seemed to cut through the void ship's armor. The dark ship didn't explode. Instead, it seemed to fold in on itself, collapsing into nothingness. It worked, Alex exclaimed, but their success was short-lived. The remaining void ships immediately changed their formation, moving faster and more erratically to avoid the defense platform's beams. Several smaller ships descended rapidly toward the canyon. They're adapting, Lyra said grimly. And they're sending ground forces. We need to get back to the ship. They ran back toward Lyra's vessel, which had partially camouflaged itself against the canyon floor. Before they could reach it, a blinding flash lit up the sky. One of the void's energy weapons had struck near the canyon rim, sending a cascade of rocks tumbling down. Lyra pushed Alex out of the way of the falling debris, but was struck by a large boulder herself. She fell to the ground with a cry of pain, blue blood seeping from a wound on her leg. Lyra! Alex knelt beside her, trying to help her up. The alien was lighter than she looked, but still too heavy for Alex to carry easily. Can you walk? Not quickly, Lyra grimaced. You need to get to the ship. There are weapons inside you can use. I'm not leaving you, Alex said firmly. She helped Lyra to her feet, supporting her weight as they hobbled toward the ship. They had almost reached it when a dark shape dropped from the sky, landing between them and their escape. It was roughly humanoid, but seemed to be made of living shadow. Where a face should be, there was only a swirling darkness. Void soldier, Lyra whispered, fear evident in her voice. The creature made no sound as it approached them. Alex could feel a cold emptiness radiating from it, like standing at the edge of an abyss. She had never felt such pure terror. Lyra pushed away from Alex, standing on her injured leg despite the pain. Get to the ship, she ordered. Second panel on the right inside the door. Touch it and think weapons. Before Alex could protest, Lyra lunged at the Void Soldier. Her hands glowed with energy as she struck at the creature. It recoiled but quickly recovered, extending an arm that stretched impossibly long, wrapping around Lyra's throat. Alex ran for the ship, her heart pounding. The door opened at her approach, recognizing her somehow. Inside, she found the panel Lyra had mentioned and placed her hand on it, thinking desperately of weapons. A section of the wall slid open, revealing what looked like a silver gauntlet. Alex grabbed it and slipped it over her right hand. It adjusted, itself to fit perfectly, extending up her arm to her elbow. She ran back outside to find Lyra struggling in the Void Soldier's grip. The alien woman's light was dimming, her movements becoming weaker. "Hey!" Alex shouted, not sure if the creature could even hear her. It turned its featureless face toward her. "Let her go!" The gauntlet on Alex's arm began to glow. Acting on instinct, she raised her hand and aimed at the Void Soldier. A beam of energy, similar to the defense platforms but smaller, shot from her palm. The beam struck the creature, forcing it to release Lyra. The Void Soldier staggered back, a hole punched through its shadowy form, but the darkness quickly flowed, back together, healing the wound. Lyra dropped to the ground, gasping for air. Alex ran to her side, keeping the gauntlet aimed at the enemy. "How do I kill it?" she asked. "You can't," Lyra wheezed. "Not with that weapon. We need to get to the ship." The Void Soldier approached again, more cautiously this time. Above them, more dark shapes were descending from the sky. They were about to be surrounded. Alex fired the gauntlet again, driving the creature back temporarily. Then she helped Lyra to her feet, and together they made it to the ship's entrance. Once inside, Lyra collapsed into one of the living chairs, which immediately began to treat her injuries. The door sealed behind them just as more Void Soldiers landed outside. "We need to leave," Alex said, moving to the control interface. "No." Lyra shook her head. "If we leave, the defense platforms will eventually be overwhelmed. We need to stay and fight." "How? Those things can't be killed by our weapons." "Not by conventional weapons," Lyra agreed. "But there's another way." She looked at Alex with a mixture of hope and sadness. "The monolith isn't just a key to the defense system. It's also a repository, a storage device containing the consciousness of my people." Alex stared at her. "What do you mean?" "When the void began destroying our worlds, we uploaded the minds of as many of our people as we could into repositories like the one here. We hid them on friendly worlds throughout the galaxy, hoping that someday we could find a way to restore our civilization." "So your people aren't completely gone," Alex realized. "Not yet," Lyra said. "But the repositories are useless without bodies to download the consciousness into, and the void knows this. They hunt for the repositories to destroy them, to complete our erasure from the universe." The ship's door opened, revealing a scene of chaos outside. The defense platforms were still firing into the sky, but more void ships were arriving every minute. Several Void Soldiers prowled the canyon floor, their shadowy forms moving with unnatural speed. "Stay close to me," Lyra said, her injured leg now healed enough to walk on. "The ship will provide us with cover fire." As if hearing her words, the ship began firing energy beams at the Void Soldiers, keeping them at bay. Lyra and Alex ran toward the monolith at the center of the canyon, dodging debris from the battle raging overhead. A Void Soldier appeared in their path. Before Alex could react, Lyra thrust out her hand, sending a pulse of energy that temporarily scattered the creature's shadowy form. "That won't stop it for long," she warned as they continued running. They reached the monolith, which was now pulsing with light in rhythm with the defense platforms. Up close, Alex could see that the symbols carved into its surface were constantly changing, like a computer code updating itself. "What do I do?" Alex asked, her heart pounding with fear and determination. "Place both hands on the surface," Lyra instructed. "Open your mind completely. Don't resist what comes." Alex hesitated for just a moment, then placed her palms against the warm stone. Immediately she felt the same tingling sensation as before, but much stronger now. The symbols under her hands glowed brightly. I'm afraid, she admitted quietly. Lyra stood beside her, placing one of her own hands on the monolith. I know, but you're not alone. I'll be with you through this. Alex nodded and closed her eyes. She tried to clear her mind, to open herself to whatever was about to happen. For a few seconds, nothing changed. Then, without warning, images began flooding into her consciousness. She saw worlds she had never imagined, planets with crystal cities, oceans of living light, forests where the trees communicated through color and sound. She saw the history of the Luminari, their rise from simple beginnings to a civilization that spanned galaxies. She felt their joy, their curiosity, their peaceful nature. And then she saw the void. Not just the ships and soldiers, but the entity behind them, a vast ancient consciousness that fed on the energy released when civilizations were erased from existence. Not just killed, but forgotten as if they had never been. The images came faster now, overwhelming in their intensity. Alex felt her sense of self beginning to fragment. There were too many memories, too many minds flowing into hers. She couldn't hold them all. Lyra, she cried out, her voice sounding distant to her own ears. I can't, it's too much. Focus on my voice, Lyra said, her hand moving to cover Alex's on the monolith. Don't try to contain all the memories. Let them flow through you like a river. You are the channel, not the vessel. Alex tried to follow the advice, imagining herself as a conduit rather than a container. It helped, but the pressure in her mind was still increasing. Her nose began to bleed, a thin trickle of red against her pale skin. Through the overwhelming flood of information, Alex began to understand what the Luminari had been trying to accomplish with the defense system. It wasn't just weapons. It was a shield, a way to hide Earth from the Void's perception. But it had never been fully activated because it required both Luminari and human DNA to complete the circuit. I see it, she gasped. The shield, it needs both of us. Yes, Lyra confirmed. Our peoples were meant to work together. That's why we chose Earth, why we shared our knowledge with your ancestors. We saw the potential for alliance. A massive explosion shook the canyon as one of the defense platforms was destroyed by the Void ships. The remaining platforms increased their fire rate, but they were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. We're running out of time, Lyra said urgently. The consciousness transfer is almost complete. Now we need to activate the shield. The pressure in Alex's mind peaked, then suddenly shifted. Instead of feeling invaded, she now felt expanded, as if her consciousness had grown to fill a much larger space. She could sense the defense platforms as extensions of herself. She could feel the Void ships, their cold emptiness an offense to her newly enhanced perception. And she could feel something else, a latent energy running through the Earth itself, connecting the various luminary sites around the planet. It had always been there, waiting to be activated. I know what to do, Alex said, her voice sounding different, resonant with multiple tones. She wasn't just herself anymore, but she hadn't been lost either. She was Alex Mercer, but also something more. She raised her free hand toward the sky. The remaining defense platforms responded, their beams converging at a point high above the Earth. Energy began to spread from that point, forming a dome of shimmering light that expanded rapidly. The Void ships tried to escape, accelerating upward, but the dome moved faster, engulfing them. Where it touched the dark vessels, they didn't explode or disintegrate. They simply stopped. Frozen in place, unable to move or attack. On the ground, the Void soldiers became motionless as well, their shadowy forms locked in whatever position they had been in when the shield activated. It worked, Lyra breathed, staring up at the transformed sky. The temporal stasis field is holding them. Alex turned to look at her and Lyra gasped. Alex's eyes were now glowing with the same silver light as Lyra's, and her skin had taken on a faint luminescence. They're not destroyed, Alex said, her voice still carrying those strange harmonics. Only suspended. The stasis field won't hold, forever. But it gives us time, Lyra said. Time to find a permanent solution. Alex nodded, then suddenly staggered. Lyra caught her before she could fall. The glow in Alex's eyes flickered like a light bulb about to burn out. "What's happening to me?" Alex asked, her voice returning to normal. "Your body is struggling to contain the collective consciousness," Lyra explained, helping her to sit on the ground. "We need to find you a more permanent solution, or you'll burn out." "Burn out?" Alex repeated weakly. "You mean die?" "Yes," Lyra admitted. "Human physiology wasn't designed to house multiple consciousnesses. Even with your special genetic markers, there are limits." Alex could feel it now. A burning sensation spreading through her nerves, her brain feeling like it was overheating. The expanded awareness that had seemed so natural moments ago was becoming painful. Too much information flooding her senses. "What can we do?" she asked. Lyra looked thoughtful. "There might be a way. My ship contains technology that could help stabilize your condition. And there's something else." She hesitated, then continued. "The Luminari developed a process called synthesis, a true merging of minds and bodies. Not one consciousness taking over another, but a blending to create something new." "You mean you and me?" Alex asked. "Yes. My body is already adapted to house multiple consciousnesses. It's part of being a sentinel. If we undergo synthesis, it might allow your mind to survive the integration with the collective. And what happens to you? To us? We would still exist, but as something new. Neither fully Alex nor fully Lyra, but a third entity containing elements of both. Our memories would remain, our core personalities, but we would perceive the world differently." Lyra smiled sadly. "It's not a decision to make lightly." Above them, the shield continued to hold, the void ships suspended like flies in amber. But already Alex could see subtle movements, the enemy slowly breaking free of the stasis field. "How long do we have before they escape?" she asked. "Hours, maybe a day," Lyra replied. The field was never meant to be permanent. Alex tried to think clearly, but the burning in her mind was making it difficult to concentrate. She could feel the consciousnesses inside her becoming restless, straining against the limitations of her human brain. "If we don't do this synthesis, what happens to the Luminari consciousness inside me?" "It will burn out along with you," Lyra said quietly. "The last memory of my people, gone forever." Alex looked up at the frozen void ships, then at the defense platforms, then finally at Lyra's alien yet somehow familiar face. "And if we do this, we might be able to find a way to defeat the void permanently, not just delay them?" "Yes. The combined knowledge of the Luminari, channeled through our synthesized form, might be enough to find their weakness." Another wave of pain shot through Alex's head. She cried out, clutching her temples. Blood now flowed freely from her nose, and she could feel it beginning to seep from her ears as well. "We don't have much time," Lyra said urgently. "Your mind is breaking down." "Will I still be me?" Alex asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Parts of you will," Lyra promised. "The core of who you are will survive, and so will parts of me. We'll be together, Alex. Neither of us will face the future alone." Alex thought about her life on Earth, her small apartment, her job at the observatory, her few friends who never quite understood her fascination with the stars. She had always felt different, separate, as if she was waiting for something to happen. Now she understood why. "I've been watching you for years," Lyra had said when they first met. Perhaps Alex had been watching for Lyra too, in her own way. "Okay," Alex said, making her decision. "Let's do it. How does it work?" "We need to get to my ship," Lyra said, helping Alex to her feet. "The synthesis chamber is there." They made their way slowly back to the ship, Alex leaning heavily on Lyra as the pain in her head continued to intensify. Around them, the void, soldiers remained frozen, but Alex could see subtle twitches beginning in their shadowy forms. The synthesis chamber hummed with energy as the process neared completion. Where two separate beings had entered the pods, now only one would emerge. The particles of light that had been Alex and Lyra swirled together, forming a new pattern, a new body. The pod covers slid open with a soft hiss. A figure sat up slowly, looking down at its hands with wonder. The skin had a subtle luminescence, not as pronounced as Lyra's had been, but definitely not fully human either. The fingers were slightly longer than Alex's had been, with the hint of an extra joint. The being that was both Alex and Lyra, and yet someone new entirely, stepped out of the pod. Memories from both former selves were present. Alex's childhood on Earth, her love of astronomy, her lonely nights at the observatory, Lyra's travels among the stars, the fall of her homeworld, her years of searching for someone who could help her fight the void. "We are one," the synthesized being said aloud, the voice neither fully Alex's nor fully Lyra's, but a melodic blend of both. Behind those merged memories lay something vaster, the collective consciousness of the luminary people, now safely housed in a body that could contain them without burning out. The ship responded to their presence, lighting up with renewed energy. Through their connection to the vessel, they could sense what was happening outside. The stasis field was failing faster now. Some of the smaller void ships had already broken free and were attacking the defense platforms again. They moved to the control interface, hands dancing through the light beams with perfect coordination. They accessed the ship's weapon systems, bringing them fully online. "We need to get airborne," they said to the ship, which responded immediately. The vessel rose from the canyon floor, engines humming with power. As they ascended, they saw that the situation had grown dire. Nearly half of the Void fleet had escaped the weakening stasis field. The defense platforms were being systematically destroyed one by one. But now, with the merged consciousness of Alex, Lyra, and the collective knowledge of the Luminary, they saw patterns they hadn't noticed before. The Void ships moved according to specific algorithms predictable if you knew what to look for. And more importantly, they could see a fundamental weakness in the Void's technology. The Void doesn't truly destroy, they realized aloud. It displaces. It shifts matter and energy into a pocket dimension, creating the illusion of erasure. That was why the Void's victims weren't just killed but forgotten. The very information about their existence was being stored in this other dimension, fueling the Void's power. "If we can disrupt that dimensional technology," they continued, hands moving faster over the controls, "we might be able to reverse the process." The ship accelerated upward, heading straight for the largest Void vessel that had broken free of the stasis field. Energy weapons fired from multiple points along the hull, but these weren't simple destructive beams. They carried a specific frequency designed to interfere with the Void's dimensional technology. Where the beams struck, the Void ship's surface began to ripple strangely. Parts of it seemed to flicker in and out of existence as if struggling to remain in this dimension. "It's working," they said with satisfaction. "Let's amplify the effect." They directed the ship to fly in a complex pattern around the Void vessel, firing continuously at specific points. Each hit weakened the enemy's dimensional stability further. But the Void wasn't defenseless. Dark energy beams lanced out, some finding their mark on the smaller ship's hull. Damage alerts sounded, though the living vessel began repairing itself immediately. "We can't defeat them all this way," they realized. "We need something bigger, something that can affect the entire fleet at once." They accessed the Luminary collective consciousness, searching through millennia of scientific knowledge for a solution. There, a theoretical weapon designed but never built, something called a dimensional resonance cascade. It would require enormous energy, more than their ship could generate alone. But combined with Earth's defense platforms and the latent energy grid connecting the various luminary sites around the planet, it could work, they whispered. They opened a communication channel to Earth's military forces, who by now had detected the battle raging in orbit. General Diane Foster of the United States Space Command appeared on the screen, her expression tense. "This is Earth Defense. Identify yourself." "I am..." They paused, realizing they needed a name for this new self. "I am Alira. I represent an alliance between humanity and the Luminary civilization. The Earth is under attack by an enemy called the Void. "We've detected the battle," General Foster replied. "Our weapons can't penetrate their hulls. Conventional weapons won't work against them," Elira explained. "But I have a plan that might. I need you to direct all available power to these coordinates." They transmitted the locations of the Luminari, sites around the world, places that humans had built monuments, temples, or observatories without ever knowing what lay beneath them. "These are power nodes that can be activated to generate a planetary defense field," Elira continued. "My ship will serve as the focal point, but we need your help to power the system." General Foster looked skeptical but nodded. "We'll divert power as requested, but if this is some kind of trick—" "It's not," Elira assured her. "Earth is my home, too." They cut the communication and returned their full attention to piloting the ship. More void vessels had broken free of the stasis field now. They were surrounded, taking hits from multiple directions. "We need to get above the atmosphere," Elira muttered, pushing the ship's engines to their limits. "The resonance cascade has to be initiated from outside Earth's magnetic field." The ship shuddered as it took another hit, a serious one this time. Part of the living hull went dark, the self-repair, systems unable to keep up with the damage. "Just a little further," Elira encouraged the vessel, feeling its pain through their connection. They broke through the atmosphere into open space, the blue curve of Earth below them, the darkness of space above. The Void Fleet followed, their dark ships looking like holes cut into the fabric of reality. Elira positioned their ship at the precise coordinates needed for the resonance cascade. Through their enhanced perception, they could sense power, building at the luminary sites around the world as Earth's military followed their instructions. "Ready?" they said, fingers dancing across the control interface one last time. "Initiating dimensional resonance cascade in 3, 2, 1. Energy surged from Earth below, flowing along invisible lines to converge on their position. The ship channeled this power, amplifying it and giving it form according to the ancient luminary design Elira had found in the collective memory. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself appeared to ripple around them like the surface of a pond disturbed by a stone. The ripples spread outward, passing through the void ships. Where the dimensional waves touched the dark vessels, something extraordinary happened. The ships didn't explode or break apart. Instead, they began to unravel. Layers of darkness peeled away, revealing what lay beneath. Not machines, but stolen fragments of reality itself. As each layer dissolved, flashes of other worlds appeared. Planets and civilizations the void had consumed, preserved in that pocket dimension to fuel their power. Elira recognized some of them from the luminary collective memory. Beautiful crystal cities, gas giant worlds, with floating habitats, even parts of Lyra's homeworld. "It's working," Elira breathed. "The resonance is destabilizing their dimensional technology. The worlds they've consumed are being released." The largest void vessel, the mothership, was fighting against the effect. It began to pulse with dark energy, trying to maintain its coherence. A beam of concentrated void energy shot toward Elira's ship. They tried to evade, but the ship was too damaged to move quickly enough. The beam struck them directly, tearing through what remained of their defenses. Systems failed throughout the vessel. Elira was thrown across the control room, pain flaring through their body. Through the ship's damaged sensors, they could see the resonance cascade beginning to falter. Without the ship to focus it, the effect would dissipate before all the void vessels were neutralized. "No," Elira said firmly, pulling themselves back to the controls. "We're not finished yet." They placed their hands on the dying ship's interface, connecting more deeply than ever before. They offered their own life energy to the vessel, their own consciousness to guide the resonance cascade. "Take what you need," they told the ship. "Just help me finish this." "The ship responded, drawing on Elira's energy. Pain lanced through their body as the vessel used their life force to power its systems. Their skin began to glow brighter, their eyes blazing with silver light. Through sheer will, they kept the resonance, Cascade focused on the Void mothership. Cracks appeared in the dark hull of the enemy vessel, light spilling out from within. The Void fought back desperately, throwing everything it had against Alira's ship. The smaller vessel was being torn, apart piece by piece, but Alira refused to let go, refused to break the connection. With a final surge of effort, they pushed all of their remaining energy into the resonance cascade. The wave of dimensional energy peaked, washing over the Void, mothership in an unstoppable tide. The great dark vessel shuddered, then began to break apart. Not in an explosion, but in a reverse implosion. Where it had been,